The news is sort of a different challenge. You have a physical newspaper and you're flipping through. No one is looking very deeply at anything, but you're looking and sort of reading lots of things. That's the exact wrong way to do it. You should ignore 98% of everything. The news is sort of a different challenge. That's how I would classify it. It's a challenge because it's easy to say, hey, take 2 hours a day and read books. Like plenty of people say that. And it's not difficult to implement if you have the desire to do it. And it's not just books, like anything long form where you're learning the fundamentals. This could be a textbook about some aspect of technology or science or whatever. Like you can't just go in the ivory tower and shut yourself off, ignore the world, especially if you do what we do. You have to be on top of markets, on top of what's happening day to day. And even for those listeners of ours who are, the majority of them are not active in markets, but in your day-to-day job, you can't just roll in and not know who the president is. So at some margin, you need to incorporate the news. So how do you do that? The way I would think about it is this. If you think of sort of the spectrum of depreciable life as one mental image, the news, I would imagine, the image I would lay out is picture a big muddy field, and in that field there's a handful of little diamonds. So your job is not to read the news, because what most people do is they approach it in the completely wrong way. What most people do is they do a very mediocre skim of everything. They're just looking at different articles, flipping through the website. Maybe you have a physical newspaper and you're flipping through. No one is looking very deeply at anything, but you're looking and sort of reading lots of things. That's the exact wrong way to do it. What you should do, rather than take that sort of mediocre skim approach, is you should take a barbell approach. You should ignore 98% of everything. And as you're scanning, as you're gathering, I like to think of it in terms of different mental modes. There's a gathering mode, and then there's a reading mode. The gathering mode is sort of greedy and grasping and outward looking, and you're at the buffet and oh, that looks good and that looks good and that looks good. And you're not actually consuming anything. You're just evaluating what you may want to read. And this is really important. In the gathering mode, you're not reading anything. You're thinking in a meta way as you skim through the website. And we'll talk about some of the tools that I find really useful to do this on a day-to-day basis. But you're just looking and you're thinking about it in a meta way to say, what is this article? Why are they writing this? Oh, this is a piece. Oh, it's a fluff piece on this story. I can skip that. This is a piece about, oh, the Japanese prime minister said blah, 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 blah. Like, whatever, who cares? When you're in gathering mode, that's the approach you want to take. You're not evaluating the content. You're evaluating a slightly different question, which is, do I put this in my pile or not? And what criteria do I use? Once you have the pile and you separate that out, then you have a separate time for reading mode. And I think this is really important because you want to take that 2 to 5% of the news that could be the diamonds in the mud, and you want to sit down with that and read it much more closely and carefully than anyone else is reading any other newspaper article.